so good. Like, really, life is so magical in so many ways.
Yeah, exactly. If you could do all of that in 5 years, I can't wait to see what you do in 50 for crying out loud. That's incredible.
What experience do we want to have? And what thing can we do to bring that experience to life?
What would you like to experience more?
Hey, friends, I have Mitch Matthews on the podcast today, and I'm so excited because it's very rare that someone matches my energy and almost like spins me up higher into the universe. And he's one of those guys where I feel we need an anchor to keep us from spiraling out of this world. So, Mitch, thank you so much for joining today.
I am so excited. I just hope that we have 4 hours for this interview because we got so much to talk about.
I know it's crazy.
I love
I
it.
love how the universe bumps us into our people, and here it
Yep.
is. So here we
No
are.
doubt. No doubt. It's an honor. I'm so excited for what you're doing. I'm so excited for your book launch. I think this book is going to impact the world. So I'm very excited to be here.
Yay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so one of the things that caught me about your story
Yeah.
was this event that you had at your house
Yep.
where everybody was, we're going to put our dreams on the wall and I'm going to let you take it from there.
Yeah. So the short version of that story is a number of years ago, I was living the entrepreneurial life, which I know you know well. And we'd had a number of big breakthroughs. And then May of 2006 hit. And hopefully you've never had a May like 2006, but I have a feeling you have because most entrepreneurs have had this season. But this month hit and everything just hit at once. We were working on a big project and a big product launch. Everything started to crash. We had a manufacturer lined up for this product, and that relationship started to crumble. And then we had a number of things hit all at once, and our bank account went to zero. And I can remember I was sitting at my desk on a Saturday morning, just kind of praying because I thought I'd been working on my dream and it had all turned into a nightmare. It felt like overnight. And I was ready to give up. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was embarrassed. I was discouraged. And I was just thinking, praying, like, how can I move forward? And I got hit with this thought, this realization that I was trying to do it alone. And first, this is kind of in prayer, to be perfectly honest. And I kind of was pushing back a little bit, like, of course I was doing it on my own. That's what entrepreneurs do. And I just got hit with this overwhelming, don't do it alone. And then I started to think, all right, well, if I ask friends for help with all of this, with my dream, I kind of feel bad because I don't know a lot of my friends' dreams. I don't know what they're going after. I don't know what they're wanting to achieve or experience in life. And so I got hit with this idea of inviting some friends over to our house, having everybody write dreams down on sheets of paper. We tape them to our walls and then just move around and see if we could help each other out. I mean, it sounds pretty altruistic, but honestly, it was an act of total and utter desperation. And Jen, I married up. You haven't met my wife yet, but when you meet her, you will agree with me. I married up because I went back from my office. I pitched my wife on this idea because here we are out of time, out of options, and literally out of cash. And my big idea was to throw a party, right? Like not
Right,
the
right.
best entrepreneurial strategy. But my wife said, you know what, let's do it. I think she was kind of thinking, what's the worst that could happen? So here's where we started to realize that we were on to something magical. Because that was a Saturday morning. I'm not a great party planner. I'm not a great event planner. So I just kind of quickly threw together an email. And in the subject line, I put big dream gathering. Because I thought if I put big dream committee, no one's coming to that party, right?
Yep, yep,
But
yep.
big dream gathering. And then in the email, I just explained, hey, we're working on a dream. It's kind of on the ropes. I need your help, but hey, I think we should all dream together. Come over. Let's think about our dreams. Let's write them down and we can see if we can help each other out. Right. It was just almost as simple as that. And I addressed it to 30 of our friends. And interestingly enough, we were kind of in desperate straits. And so we made it quickly. We thought, all right, we need to have this right away. So we made it for that Tuesday night, that following Tuesday night. So you think about it, like weird idea in an email, short notice. Like, who's going to come to that? But
Right.
when we saw the results, we just knew something special was happening, because here it was, just a couple of days later, they had all received this email and people just started flooding our house. 28 of those 30 people we invited actually showed up. And some people knew right away, like we didn't have to even explain what we were doing. Some people were like, they knew exactly what their dreams and goals were. They started to write them down, put them up on the paper. But most people, if they were being honest, came because they said, I got your email and I wasn't quite sure what I'd even write down. So I came to see what other people would write down and maybe be inspired. And that's what started to happen. Just over the course of that night, people started to write dreams down, put them up on the walls, and then they started to write on each other's dream sheets just to say, hey, I love this dream, go for it, or I believe in you, you can do it, or hey, I'm working on something similar, let's work together, or you need to know a guy there, I know a guy there, let me hook you up. And what's amazing is we had a lot of help, we had a lot of encouragement, and we thought, this thing's done, right? It was a really nice night. We actually shut it down around 10 o'clock. Two people stayed on our front step. At 11 o'clock, I'm yelling through the screen door, like, go home. The cops are going to, the neighbors are going to call the cops or whatever. And what's wild is the next morning, we had dream sheets all over our living room. I'm sitting at a breakfast table with a friend, or with my family, and a friend calls, somebody who had been there that night before. And he was like, dude, I'm already at work. I told everybody what we did last night. They want to come to your house and dream. Is that okay? And I was like, no, that's weird. Like, the party was one night, it's done. He's like, hey, I already told everybody we're coming tonight. Hope it's okay. Right. And they showed up. And what wound up happening is we opened up the house, and it was supposed to last for a couple of hours on that Tuesday night. We lost control of it. It went for a full week. Full week of dreaming, and strangers, friends, everybody started to come to the dream house to dream. And it was amazing. We wound up getting help. We got our product on shelves by that Christmas. We wound up having a great year. Everything turned around. A lot of people wound up getting help with their dreams. But the big thing was, people kept saying, thanks for giving us permission. Thanks for giving us space. And thanks for reminding us to dream together. And so even though our product got on track and our business started to grow, we kept doing those big dream gatherings just because we saw the magic of what could happen in a living room by accident. And now we've gotten to do those all around the country for years since. So it's been an amazing ride. Again, showcasing the power of what happens when we give ourselves permission to dream and when we don't do it alone.
Yeah, I love this. We don't do it alone, right? That's so big. In
Yeah.
my book, I even talk about big mountains take big teams. So if you have this
Yeah.
big goal or this big idea or this big thing that you want to achieve and you start running out of steam, that doesn't stop. That doesn't mean like quit or never mind or let me dial it back and negotiate with myself. No, that's just a sign that I don't have enough people on my team to bring this thing to life. So who can help?
Absolutely right. And it's wild because I think sometimes we're programmed to think if we need to ask for help, that's weakness. But
Right.
asking for help is a strength. And it oftentimes, I mean, when we start to think about, I mean, one of the other things that's amazing about big dream gatherings is you start to see the web that starts to happen when people dream together. That one dream, one person's dream is related. We call it complementary dreaming. It's related to someone else's dream as well. And maybe, you need something to accomplish your dream. Well, the very thing you need might be somebody else's dream. So by asking for help and surrounding yourself, building that team, as you say, that actually gives other people the possibility of walking out their dream as well. So it's powerful.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so you host this week of parties, right? Everybody's dreaming
Yes.
together. The you
Yes.
kind of fast forwarded till the product got on the shelves by the end of the year, you ended up doing
Yep.
well. How was the relationship with yourself and your self-talk during this period of we ran it to zero?
Right. Isn't that something? Right. Like, I think that is huge. I know that, you and I both do some coaching and walk alongside people and help them to become more successful. And, whether it's in business or actually climbing mountains, there's going to be times, I know a core part of your story is not hitting some of those summits, not hitting some of those goals. And that is such an important element of any journey, right? Is what are you going to do with the setbacks? Is that going
Mhm.
to be something that sets you back forever? Or is that going to be something that sets you back to reset your mind, reset your perspective, reset your strategies? And so I know for me, especially because so many things hit in that 1 month, it really had the potential to knock me off my horse. I mean, we'd really never had a month where all of these things hit at once. But I look back now and I'm grateful for it, because what's wild is I know that we were supposed to produce this product. I know that that was a part of our journey, but I look back on it and go, okay, what part of the reason why we had the idea for this product, and because of the journey and all of that, going and pursuing the product actually helped us to uncover the big dream gathering. And the big dream gathering is something that, we now get to do across the country. It's allowed us to, bring in 7 figures plus in revenue, all those things, never what we intended to do. But, the one dream pursuit of the product help us to uncover something so much bigger. And I think you probably experienced that with mountain climbing too. It's just that one climb, that one experience often will open up other experiences, things you never thought possible, maybe even things you weren't even aware of, but you got to take the step, right? And oftentimes you got to make it past those setbacks.
Yeah, no, and there's so many things that resonate in my journey with what you're just saying. And I love when you climb mountains, you have this term called acclimatizing. So when you're climbing, you're going to go to a point of failure, right? Like there's going to be a point where your body is not ready to go any further up the mountain. And so then you come back to base camp, your body physiologically changes so that you have more red blood cells so you can go higher up the mountain. And I love having that story. I'm like, anytime I hit failure or a setback or whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm acclimatizing. I'm just getting to a point where it's like, okay, come back to the boardroom, come back to base camp, come back to home base. What do I know? What's working, what's not, and how do I move forward? It's never a quit. And so it's very tiny words that we use that give us permission slips to continue.
It's so true. And by the way, isn't the body freaking amazing? Like, to think about how, I mean, the design of our bodies is just mind boggling. So I love that. But along with what you're saying, we take the attitude and the mindset of be a scientist. Be a
Yeah.
scientist, because a scientist, if they're doing what they do and do it well, the scientific method teaches us that, I think it's one of the best ways to look at goal pursuits, actually, is to say, all right, a hypothesis, if you look up the definition of the word hypothesis, it is a best guess. It is a well informed guess at how something's going to go, which I think is a great way to talk about goal attainment, right? Like, we guess at how we think it might go, right? We start to build a plan. That hypothesis is, all right, this is what we think is going to happen. This is what we think will work. And then we start to experiment, right? We start to
Yep.
take action. But as long as we keep the mindset of experimenting, then if something doesn't go the way we thought, that's not failure, especially if we're learning, right? So the scientific method tells us we're going to hypothesize, we're going to experiment, and then we're going to adjust, right? To be able to assess and adjust. So to be able to say, okay, what's working? What do we think, or what did we think would work? How is that playing out? If it works, great. If it doesn't, as long as we're learning from it, we're moving forward, right? And I think we always try to literally keep our lab coats on. That helps us to keep that mentality of the scientist, so that we can reframe it not as failure, but as learning, especially as long as we're moving forward.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that just whole framework because it gives us permission
Yeah.
and it allows the mistakes or a lot like, I use the word mistakes. It's not even mistakes. It allows the experiment to play out and give us what is working and
Yep.
what isn't and continue on. The book I wrote is called Break Proof. The reason why is because we're
Right.
going to break. In the break, we have the proof. What is working? What isn't?
Yeah.
How do we adjust? Is this even the mountain that I want to climb? Or now that I got to this
Yep.
point, Have I been introduced to a new mountain that I now want to pursue, but I wouldn't have known about it had I not put action into this first pursuit? So, yeah, it's
Absolutely. I
fascinating.
love it. So good. So good.
I know. I know it's awesome.
Yeah.
Life is so good. Like really, life is so magical in so many ways. I just am grateful I'm a vessel that gets to have things come through. So there we go.
One, it's you've worked hard to attain that,
Yeah.
but at the same time, to be grateful in it is such a blessing, right? That's the key. And I love it. So well done.
Well, it helps when you have a near death experience, right? So I had this near death experience. And so every moment after that moment is a bonus moment in my life. And they're not all pretty, but guess what? I'd rather have it than not have it. And so anytime I just get overwhelmed and I feel like heavy or things are just not going my way, I'm like, hey, but I'm still here to have this experience. And that's pretty dang cool. And I'll take that all day long.
It is. It's a huge, huge wake up call. I love that. My wife is a cancer survivor, and I know every day after that diagnosis, and then we had some miracles play out that allowed her to not only survive and thrive, but every day after that has been a blessing because we no one knows. Like
Right.
tomorrow is not guaranteed, right? All we have is this moment, and so to be in this moment and to commit to be grateful and to commit to experimenting, I mean, it can make any moment better, right? So I love that. And it's well done. I mean, it is just incredible to see what you have done post accident. It's just inspiring.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my 5-year anniversary is coming up, and you sit there and think like of all the things that have
Really,
happened in the last 5 years. Wow. Okay, good. Like, let's keep it coming. I'm in.
right?
This is
Yeah,
fantastic.
exactly.
Oh,
If you can do all of that in 5 years, I can't wait to see what you do in 50 for crying out loud. That's incredible.
yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, awesome. Okay, so it started with this whole like dream together thing and taking it across the country and doing pieces like that. When you are working with people, how are you helping them balance the different areas that we define success in?
Ah, that's so good. So yeah, so we do these events called Big Dream Gatherings, but then part of my day job is also coaching and walking alongside people as a success coach. And so, I get to I mean it's the honor of a lifetime is to get to work with, high level leaders, successful people, helping them to take that success to the next level. And I love the question of saying, how do you help people to really kind of maximize and thrive in multiple areas? Because, a lot of people, as you well know, may thrive in one area, but then you'll see them just completely deprive other areas of their life to the detriment of a family or, relationships or their health. And it is so important to be able to say, all right, I don't know if balance is the right word. I love kind of trying to live holistically, right? To be able to say, all right, what is important to you? And it's not necessarily living in a balance, but it is living holistically. And I think in some ways, to answer your question, where I start with my clients is simply asking them, wait, what is important to you? Right? Because what's interesting is, especially because I tend to work with highly successful, high drivers. What's interesting is that they will often get myopic into one area and achieve extreme success in one area. And they don't wake up going, you know what, I'm going to be incredible in my career and crap as a dad. Like they don't wake up and make that decision, right? They wake up and say, hey, I'm going to do everything that I can to make our business thrive or to grow this. And I'm certainly going to try to take care of my family. But oftentimes because of schedules or because of habits, the things that are important, but maybe less critical or less urgent, those things don't get as much attention. Right. And so it really does start with just saying, hey, what is important to you? What is important? And one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients is I have a visioning activity where I have them think about kind of ideal life in 5 years. Not in the way you probably, if you've ever had an interview, people will say, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Not in that kind of formal variety, but I actually get them visioning to say, all right, what do I want life to look like in 5 years? If anything was possible, what would I love? But to have them think in those different areas, like career or business, but also in relationships, what will life feel like? What do you want to experience more of in 5 years? And help them to say, all right, that's the goal out there. That's what we want to move towards. But then to say, all right, what habits, what systems do we need to start to create? What kinds of beliefs do we need to start to cultivate in order to make that life a reality? And what's wild about it is oftentimes it's just being intentional and giving yourself permission to try things, right? Intentional, it's what do I want to create, right? There's that intentionality, but then giving yourself permission to experiment to get there. You're not going to be perfect at it. It oftentimes, as I help people to vision out what they want to achieve can actually be pretty clear, especially if they give themselves some space to think about it. But they're not going to be great at achieving it immediately because they don't have all of it right now, right? They're going to need to learn some new things. And so it's that whole thing of being able to say, like we talk about, having that scientific mindset of being able to say, all right, what experiments do I want to try this week to cultivate this?
No, and for me, it's the accountability piece, right? Because I'm really good at attention. And then what can happen is like momentum. Momentum takes me off pace like all the time because it's one more call, it's one more email, it's one more whatever. And it feels good right now because you're like, okay, I'll walk in tomorrow and I have more stuff done. And so then I'm always getting ahead of it. And then before I know it, like I did an audit of my calendar and I like to tell myself, I'm a mom first, a business owner second, and an athlete third. Well, I was on an airplane and I'm like, I'm going to look at my last month's calendar to make sure I'm really lining up what I say I am. And it was a wake up call. And I'm like, wait a minute, I am not living like I'm saying I'm living. And so, as I mean, it's just accountability to yourself and to like the truth of, hey, are my actions really doing what my intentions are?
Yep, absolutely. And that's a calendar and a bank statement are the ultimate accountability, right? To be able to say, oh, these are my priorities. Okay, does your calendar reflect that? Does your bank statement reflect that? Right? And if they
Yep.
don't, what I always say is don't beat yourself up for it, but wake up from it. Right. And it's that whole thing of saying, what are some small but significant things that you want to start doing now to start changing to create more of that future you want?
Yeah. Do you have anything that like blanket you say to everybody saying like, okay, listen, here's an area that most of my clients struggle with. Here's something I want you to try as a tool to use in your daily living.
I love it. That's so good. I love that question. One thing that we talk a lot about, which is I think surprising to a lot of my coaching clients, my high achievers, my successful people, is I always say get curious. Get curious. Because what's interesting is that, high level, highly successful people, oftentimes they've achieved a high level of success. Therefore, it often means that if they're going to try something new, they feel a higher sense of risk because, when they're going to try something new, whether it's a hobby or something with their career or their life, they feel like a lot of people are watching. And whether that's true or not, they just feel that pressure of being more visible, right? That's why I think, a lot of people assume that highly successful people set new goals and go after new dreams more often because they're successful. But I've actually found the reverse. Oftentimes, achieving success in one area will make someone more risk averse and less likely to try new things because now they feel more visible. They've got success that people know about. So to try something new and have it not go well feels like a bigger risk than ever. Right. So when I'm working with people, we always talk about like, get curious. I know I've got a podcast called Dream, Think, Do, and I had a guest on, and he was very successful in marketing in the advertising world in New York. And his mentor gave him a piece of advice that was so powerful. He was wrestling with going after a major shift in his life and his business. and he just was just amped up and locked up and stuck. And a mentor said, "Hey, I think you're focused on the wrong things." He said, do you know what the opposite of fear is?" And my guest, his name is Sam Griffin. He was like, "Well, bravery, guts." And his mentor was like, "No, the opposite of fear is curiosity." He said, "Right now, you're focused on all the potential negative outcomes if this thing doesn't go well. But what if you got curious?" He said, "You're focusing on all the ways this could go down in flames." He said, "What if you got curious about all the ways that it could actually be successful? What if you got curious about the people that you'll meet? What if you got curious about the experiences that you'd have? What if you got curious about what your life would look like if things really took off with this idea?" And with Sam, the guest of this podcast episode, he used that to say, "Okay, when I start to experience fear, now instead of like trying to be brave, I'm just going to get curious to go, hey, what's something I could learn that would allow me to take a step today? Who's somebody I could be learning from if you feel stuck? Like, what's something I could try? Just, it doesn't have to be the solution for everything, but who's faced this kind of thing before and how did they do it? How did they overcome it? Just getting curious. And one thing that I found, with my own life, but also with my clients' life, is if they get curious and stay curious, it's much easier to keep that scientific mindset, right? To stay curious, but to be able to say, all right, what do I want to try now? That didn't go the way that I thought. What do I want to try now? What might be a good experiment? What's a small but significant step that I could take tomorrow to try again? And I found that, getting curious and staying curious has staying power.
So good. Yes. So good. I can think of when fear overcame me with I don't know, but maybe fear balanced itself out. Well, let's play this out for a little minute as just as an example. Coach me through this. I got in the car accident. I knew my car was totaled. They didn't tell me it was totaled yet, but I'm like, it's totaled, I promise you. So I go down to the dealership in an Uber. They give me keys and I buy a car and I get the keys and I'm like, oh, I have to drive. I didn't think about needing to get back on the road again and drive. And it is a 35 to 45-minute drive home on the highway next to semi trucks again. Yuck. So for 45 minutes in this car, I'm in the dealership parking lot and I'm doing pep talks to myself. I'm listening, I'm watching like a YouTube clip that's like, "Hey, you get up at 4 a.m. and you just do it." Right? I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna play my favorite song or whatever. And then I remembered like being in high school where a friend of mine's mom um didn't drive. And I'm like, I have 7 kids. I cannot be a human that doesn't drive. And if I do not get behind this wheel now, I'm not gonna get like this fear is gonna grow. And so I have to
Right.
start driving. So I remember
I love
driving
it.
and I like anytime I got next to a semi, my heart would be in my throat and I'd have to swallow it and get as
Sure.
far over as I could.
Right.
But I made it home sweating.
Yeah.
Like I probably lost 10 pounds on the ride home or whatever, doing nothing.
That's
But
right.
I made
Your
it
kids are
home.
like, Mom, what happened? Yeah.
Why are you red? Why is your shirt wet? What's going
Exactly.
on? It
Did you
wasn't
go scuba
raining.
diving? What is happening?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I made it home and like normal roads were okay, right? But like the highway took me a solid 6 months before I could drive on the highway next to a semi truck and not have a physical reaction. Not saying it was bad, just noticing like, oh, I literally brought my mom to the airport and I said, I remember getting to the airport being like, oh my gosh, I made it all the way here. And I didn't even notice I made it all the way here. I'm healed. Like I'm through it. I'm over it. And so for those of us that have this fear that shows up physically because of PTSD or whatever you want to call it, um, I think it's important that we need to stay curious, but also understand that it doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable. It doesn't mean it's going to be fun. It doesn't mean like it's going to be this easy thing just because we're curious. It's a thing that you need to continuously train until you overcome.
Absolutely. And it becomes a mindset, right? Like that curiosity becomes a mindset. I think, your example is such a great example of being able to say, okay, I mean, you went after it, right? There's a lot of people that say, all right, maybe I can't drive all the way home, but at least I could drive down the street for a little bit. And how did that feel? Like,
Mm.
okay, I may not be ready for the interstate yet, but I can at least drive in town for a little while. How does that feel? It's a little bit like I ran the Chicago Marathon. And when I got ready to do it, when I first started in that process, I was in okay shape, but I hadn't run more than a mile. Right. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to do the thing that all the, personal development gurus talk about is run from your front door to the first street light that you see and then run back. It's like, okay, I could do that. I can't run 26 miles, but I could at least run that and then, run a little bit further. I'm going to run around the block and then I'm going to run a mile. Like working up to these things, but doing it consistently is the way to achieve it. And you push through massive fear. But what I love is you stayed curious to be able to go, okay, well, I just drove my mom to the airport and I didn't freak out the whole time. So what was it that allowed me to do it? Was I was distracted by talking with my mom? Maybe it's like, all right, what other ways that I could cultivate that kind of good distraction, not bad distraction? Maybe it's listening to podcasts. Like how could I tap into the very thing that helped me in this situation to drive without fear? How can I tap into that in other ways, right? Staying curious makes all the difference.
Yeah. And then allowing whatever that thing is to be that thing. When you're working with clients and they have this big success in this one area of their life, which makes them a little gun shy to put themselves out there in other spaces because it's vulnerable being a beginner, what do you say to them or what do you have them do to help move through that resistance?
Yeah. I love it. So that's such a great question. And it is something that's common. Again, I think, your audience, I have a feeling, is highly successful people, right? Like I'm guessing you don't attract couch potatoes, right? Like I have a feeling you probably annoy the shiznits out of couch potatoes, right? Like, and that's great. So you're going to attract people who are highly successful and who are now, they're like you probably, you built an amazing business, a profitable business, a successful business. And then you said, what if I go climb some mountains? Right? Like a lot of people go, okay, I built this thing. Now they move. It's a little bit like watching a football game. I don't know if you've ever seen a football team where they come out to win and then they get ahead and then they go into halftime and they come out from halftime. And now what they're doing is they're trying to protect their win instead of going for the win. Now they're just trying to not lose. Right. And that can be so dangerous. And that's what I see, it happens with people who have successful careers or who build successful businesses when they move from that concept of building to now protecting. Like some protection is good, right? But if that's what you're in all the time, you start to shut down, you start to clamp down on creativity. You also start to clamp down on actually enjoying the process and growing and risking, right? So part of it is I always say, when I'm working with my clients, oftentimes what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to take their career or their business to the next level, but they really want their whole life to go to the next level, right? And so what I talk about is I talk about that, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to get some clarity on what you want more of. Then we're going to start to make some experiments like we've already talked about. Like we're going to say, hey, I think this might work in this particular area. I'm going to try it. But one of the things that I talk about is I'm actually not a big believer in big blind leaps of faith. What I'm a big believer in is small steps of faith over time, right? Like exactly right. And I mean, that's how I know in your book, For Crying Out Loud, that's how you wind up. I mean, some people might say climbing K2 is a big, giant blind leap of faith, but actually, it's a bunch of small steps of faith over time, right? It's that one step after another, figuring out actually how you could do it, what your team, who needs to be on the team, how could you do it, all those kinds of things, right? So what I talk about with my clients is to be able to say, let's do a series of small experiments, because what's interesting with highly successful people is oftentimes highly successful people kind of think, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to go all in, right? If I'm going to pursue this new thing, I got to shut everything down. I've got to quit my job. I've got to sell my business. I've got to do all these things. I've got to do it all, and I got to go all in. And I say, well, we may get to that point, but now's not the time to go all in. Now's the time to experiment. With the podcast with Dream Think Do, I interviewed a guy named Sean Askinosi. And Sean was a wildly successful defense attorney in Missouri, like unbeatable, for crying out loud. And he had a real heart for justice, right? And what's interesting is that over time, even though he maintained his success, he knew deep down that he was starting to lose his passion for law. Nobody else knew it, but he knew it. And that's what often happens with successful people is they start to feel it way before anybody around them starts to see it, right? And what I love is Sean took this approach. Sean didn't just quit his job. Sean started to ask, hey, what am I curious about? What do I enjoy? What do I want to learn more about? And he first, thought about cooking, and then took some classes and figured out chocolate. He really enjoyed chocolate. He enjoyed the taste of chocolate. He enjoyed experimenting with chocolate, making chocolate, all of those things. And he just kept taking classes. He kept doing experiments, kept researching, he kept looking at the industry. And as he did that, these little experiments led him to realize that actually there's a lot wrong with the industry. A lot of people that are involved in that industry kind of get beat up by the big companies and all of those things. And so he started to do more experiments, like going to places like Nicaragua or the Philippines and those kinds of things, and talk to the actual growers and hear about their life and what their process is. And he started to experiment with this small batch, amazing chocolate. And now he has Askinosi chocolate, which Oprah, you may have heard of Oprah. Oprah says is one of her favorite chocolates. He's been profiled in Fortune. He's been one of the top 50 innovative businesses to watch by Forbes, and they're a chocolate company. Now, he didn't do that. It wasn't a blind leap of faith. It was small steps of faith over time. What's beautiful about that, though, is he still has a deep heart for justice, right? But he found a new way to pursue that. He didn't just do it overnight. It took it took time. It took a series of experiments, but now he is living that life of where he's thriving. It's not easy. It's hard, but he loves the work again. And again, it's tied back to that passion for him for, that heart for justice. He just had to find a new way to do that. And he did it through those simple, but clear steps of faith over time.
So awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
somebody who has been in a field and they're starting to feel that boredom set in.
Yep. Yep.
But they like just don't quite know how to do, for me, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was bored
Yeah.
out of my mind, but I
Yep.
felt guilty pursuing something else because I'm so lucky that I get to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, how
Right.
lucky am I, right? And
Right.
why would I give up this opportunity? So for me to wake up, I needed a car wreck because the car wreck
Yeah.
was like, hey, listen, you don't have all this time you think you have. Get out there,
Yeah.
do your thing, like stop wasting time. What do you like? How do they even start? Because I think it's overwhelming for people. Like when I talk to friends, I'm like, what's your goal for next year? They don't even know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the places that I love to start is honestly, it's funny. My podcast is called Dream Think Do, but I actually resisted that for a long time because I did not want the word dream in the name. Because even though my podcast is called Dream Think Do, and even though I'm a coach, and I'm a success coach, I help people get clear on what they want in their life and find ways to actually achieve that. What's interesting is that I don't find that process easy personally, right? I don't find it easy to dream, right? So people hear that and go, "What the what? Like you have a podcast called that? You have all these things, right?" But what I love about it is I don't find it easy to do. So, but I got curious, like to be able to say, okay, if I don't find it easy, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I need to get curious. And for people, whether they're wildly successful, but maybe they're starting to feel a little burnt out, or maybe it is starting to get a little old, or maybe they're just feeling that longing to do something new. One of the big things is to give yourself permission to experiment, right? To try something new. But I would even say, you know what? Don't worry about the word dream right away. Don't worry even about the word goal right away. What I like to do is I like to go with a little bit different word to start with. And that is, what would you like to experience more?
Yes. That is the word. That is the money ship word. Because here's what happened after my accident. I was one of those people that only knew how to drive things all the way home. Right. So like if I'm going to take something, it's going to go to the nth degree. So then all of a sudden I started paralyzing myself because I'm like, I don't know if I want to pick that up because it's going to take 5 years. Like I just didn't know how to do halfway or knew like how to do less. And so then when I got into that accident, I'm like, I could die in the next decade, the next year, the next month, whatever. Like I no longer care to bring things all the way home. I want to know what the experience is. Like, I want to know what it feels like to have pasta in Italy. I want to know, like, just dumb things, right? That you're like, okay, well, if this is my last year, then this is my universe. What do I get to play with and experience? Because now it's less about proving to the world that I can take it home. I've done that. Okay. Now it's about like, hey, what does this feel like? Do I like it? Is it fun? Does it get me happy? Right? That experience thing is huge.
It is. And it's what's interesting is that again, so many people get hung up with the word dream or the word goal because there's a lot of pressure around it. Everybody feels like, oh, I should know, I should have that written down, I should have it on my fridge, I should, be able to but most people don't. They set goals for their work or their career or their kids, those types of things, right? But for life, what do we actually want more of? We want the experience, right? Like people say, well, I want to make $1 million or I want to have $10 million. Actually, they just want to experience, or like they assume the experience of feeling safe or feeling confident, right? The feeling of freedom. Really, we are wanting more experiences. So why not get intentional with that? Now, once we start to do that, and that's a pretty eye-opening experience for people, because what's interesting is often people, again, I'm not working with couch potatoes either, right? I'm working with successful people. But when we start to explore that question, what's interesting is people are like, well, I actually want to experience more peace. I actually want to experience more joy. I actually want to experience more rest. It's like, okay, well, what's beautiful about all those things is, those are all things that we can achieve more of through habits and mindset. It's not actually about the dollar figures in your bank account. Let me give you an example of this. We did a big dream gathering in Augusta, Georgia. And, it's great. People come and write down their dreams, post their dreams, connect. And oftentimes when we, we'll either partner with a city or an organization, we'll come back. And a year later, we did that almost a year to the day. We came back and did a big dream gathering again. And in Augusta, Georgia. And while we were there, a gal came up to me and she said, hey, do you remember me from the big dream gathering last year? And I have a hard time lying. I'm not good at it. So I was like, I would love to say yes, but I get to meet a lot of people. I'm wildly blessed. I don't. I said, but I'm so glad you're here. And she said, well, that's okay. You wouldn't recognize me. And I said, well, why wouldn't I recognize you? And she said, well, actually, when I came to the big dream gathering last year, I was 100 pounds heavier. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Was that your dream? And she takes out her purse and unfolds the dream sheet from the big dream gathering the year before. And she goes, no, my dream wasn't anything about health. I was like, oh, really? What was your dream? And she unfolded it and showed me. And the dream was simply, I want to be happier more often. And I said, what a great dream. That's beautiful. I said, well, tell me how it went. And she said, well, what's interesting is I started to realize that is something I can do. That's not dependent on my bank account. That's not dependent on my health. I mean, yes, those things, are great. If I have a bigger bank account or a fuller bank account, if I am healthier, yes, I can experience, more happiness, more joy. But honestly, there's a lot of people with full bank accounts that don't experience a lot of happiness and a lot of joy. There's people that have, 3% body fat and they're not happy and they're not joyful. She's like, so I realized I just got to focus on that first, that experience. Right. And so that's what she did. But as she did that, she started to experiment with things like meditation and healthy choices for eating, but in many ways, like just enjoying a meal with a friend and all of those things. And she said, as I started to experience more happiness, a lot of the things that were leading to me eating poorly and not taking care of my body were kind of taken care of. And I realized I actually really enjoy doing a lot of things like exercise and eating healthier, all those things. And she said, my goal wasn't weight loss, but that was one of the natural fruits of focusing on that experience. And so I love that as an example. Again, I don't say, hey, happiness is the new weight, fad or craze or whatever. But look at that. Like, she looked for the experience. That became the goal, the dream for her. She started to pursue it with intentionality. She started to experiment. And as she did, there were other things in her life that also changed in a positive way.
Oh, that's such an awesome story. That's so good. I'll share something from my life that I've been focusing on too. So I am serious. Like, that's my default mode. I don't know why my default mode is serious, but I'm like, okay, give me this project. I'm going to take it home and we're going to do it and it's going to get done. And after my accident, like after I had, like I built a successful company, I had this accident, I do this like world record. And I'm like, okay, when I go do this world record, I cannot let it be serious. This has to be fun. Because if there's anything I could tell my younger self is like, you're going to be successful. Like, let go of that story. Like, don't worry, right? The goal is if to climb Everest, who gets to have the most fun in the pursuit of climbing Everest? Because if I already know I'm going to climb it, right? Like my personality, if I'm going to climb it, I'm going to climb it. Like that part's taken care of. So it allowed me to just pause a second and say, okay, how do I make this fun? How do I make this enjoyable? How do I do these different things? And it's funny because there's this section on Everest called the Lhotse Face. For everybody listening, it's a 3,700-foot outdoor stairmaster. Okay. I mean, like you're in the elements. There's nothing pretty. It's a stairmaster for 3,700 feet. And there you have it. And it's normally like everybody's least favorite section of Everest. And so we knew this going in. And I'm like, okay, team, we are not letting this be this rugged, disastrous story that everybody else has. We are going to have fun. So we're going to take turns leading this section, and whoever's leading is singing songs, telling stories, telling jokes, doing whatever, so that we can get through this section with as much fun as possible. And I'm telling you what, if you ask anybody on my team, their favorite part of Everest was the Lhotse Face.
Isn't that great?
It's
Like,
crazy.
and that's just such the perfect example. It's setting that intention. And then because I would imagine a lot of people say, oh, you're nuts. You're nuts. But if you set that intention, look at what it did to the experience. But it not only was your experience, but it was your whole team's experience,
Our
right?
whole team.
How great is that?
Yeah.
I love it.
It was awesome. It was so good. Yay. Anyways.
So good.
Okay, so I could talk to you for days and hours, and we could have our own episode that's just Mitch and Jenn back and forth, like
right.
chewing the
we can
like,
do
life.
that. Yes.
We could do that. But I like have loved our time. I love what you do. How do people find you and get more of you? Because I know I want more.
I appreciate that. I love it. Well, probably the easiest place to start is just go to mitchmatthews.com. That's where you can find out about my two podcasts. I've got one podcast called Dream, Think, Do. And then I have a second podcast called Encouraging the Encouragers. That podcast is specifically for coaches, speakers, content creators, people like you and me who are doing our best work to try to encourage the world, right? And I always believe that if you're working hard at encouraging the world, you should be paid well for that. So check out that podcast as well. That's a fun one. And then, again, spend time at mitchmatthews.com. If people, I always hear people when they hear this kind of stuff go, gosh, I love that. That's the way I think. I wonder if I could coach. I wonder if I could speak, those kinds of things. If somebody is thinking about that, maybe they've wondered about being a coach, trying to make the world a better place and hopefully get paid well to do that. But they've always wondered whether it would be something that they could do and do well. we actually put an assessment up. We've been coaching other coaches for over a decade. We've been able to help thousands of coaches around the world. People can go to mitchmatthews.com/CPSA. It's the Coaching Predictability of Success Assessment. It's a mouthful, I know, but it actually allows people very quickly to figure out whether being a coach, a speaker, a content creator, an encourager is actually a viable thing for them. And I believe the world needs encouragement, and I believe encouragers should be paid well to do that work, but not everybody should actually try to make it a career. So we love to help people make that decision. So those are a couple places people can go.
Oh, I love it. All right, friends. So from this episode today, we are going to have a more curious mindset, and we're going to focus on what experience do we want to have and what thing can we do to bring that experience to life. Thank you so much, Mitch.